Hello and welcome back to Wake Up London. The time is 7:31 a.m. Let's check in with the results of the Scottish referendum then. With 31 council areas declared, it is the definitive no to independence from the Scottish public. In the last few minutes, David Cameron has been giving his reaction to this, speaking outside number 10 Downing Street. He spoke about the power of democracy. He said he's delighted that the four nations will stay together. He said he's spoken to Alex Salmond, the leader of the SNP, and that the SNP will join further talks on devolution. He said we now have a chance to change the way the British people are governed and change it for the better. The Prime Minister said his government had delivered on devolution and will do so in the future, and he also promised a further devolution of powers to other parts of England, Wales and Northern Ireland. And we also know now that Lord Kelvin, chairman of the Glasgow 2014 Commonwealth Games, has been appointed to oversee that process of further devolution. More on that to come later on in the show, but let's get all the latest headlines now. Police hunting missing teenager Alice Gross are still searching for a convicted murderer who disappeared from his home around the same time. Anis Alkans, a 41-year-old Latvian national, was spotted on CCTV riding a bicycle along the same canal path where Alice was last spotted. It's been revealed Zalkans was arrested 5 years ago by the Met Police on suspicion of indecently assaulting a teenage girl in West London. A man's been charged this morning with the murder of a girl in East London. 26-year-old Leanne Duffy died days after being stabbed in a house in Walthamstow earlier this month. 48-year-old Lloyd Byfield, even of no fixed address, will appear at Thames Magistrates Court later. Police have released a CCTV image of a man they're looking for after a model was allegedly racially assaulted at a busy tube station. 21-year-old Mahanila Chowdhury-Reid said she was kicked, shoved and racially abused during the alleged attack at Regent's Park Station as she travelled to work. London Underground have said they're working with the British Transport Police to fully investigate the incident. And Fulham have parted company with manager Felix Magath, with under-21 coach Kit Symons put in caretaker charge. In a statement released by the club, Fulham owner Shahid Khan conceded the club had no option but to make a change following defeat to Nottingham Forest. Now, London's Muslim communities are this morning making a stand against extremism following the murder of British citizen David Haines. The London Muslim Community Forum has appealed to all mosques in the capital to invite their local communities to join them for Friday prayer during London Juma Peace Day. Melina is live in Southfields at the London Mosque for us. It's called journalist Rupert Myers. He's been analysing all the results for us this morning. So, rejecting independence there, 55% the no camp have won by. David Cameron has been out talking about sort of the process now of devolution. So he's handing the devolution process over to Lord Kelvin. So he's acting quickly now to assure the SNP they will get something. He's acting quickly, but more than just reassuring Scotland that they're going to get their devolutionary powers, he has quite notably promised that in line with the pace of the devolutionary powers of Scotland, there will be the examination of what's called the West Lothian question. So at the same speed as the powers which are going to be given to Scotland, William Hague is now tasked with coming up with proposals to put to the Labour Party on English votes for English laws. That's significant for a number of reasons. Firstly, because there's a lack of representation of English people, or there's an over-representation of Scots voters, with them having MSPs and MPs sitting in Westminster. It's also an attempt to cut UKIP off at the pass, because UKIP could now quite easily talk about this democratic deficit and use that to their advantage. Sure. And thirdly, it puts pressure on Ed Miliband, who has to be seen to be in favour, obviously, of equal representation for the various parts of the nation, but knows that he needs to rely upon Scottish MPs to pass laws at Westminster. So it's a very interesting game that's being played out. It is, isn't it? Very much a power play that's going on. But as you say about UKIP, Nigel Farage has been talking to Leela outside Westminster, and we can hear from him now.
Well, I'm obviously pleased that the union has been maintained, despite the desperately poor efforts, frankly, by Mr Cameron, Miliband and Clegg, who really fought a very lacklustre campaign. Then they panicked at the last minute and made a whole series of promises on behalf of the English taxpayer. And I don't think that's good enough. I really don't. And I've heard Mr Cameron this morning saying he's going to put Mr Hague in charge of a committee to work out the question of whether Scottish MPs should vote on English laws. Well, it's pathetic. I'm writing today to all 59 Scottish MPs and saying, in a spirit of finding a fair deal for the United Kingdom, will you please from today promise that you will not debate or vote on issues in the House of Commons that are English-devolved matters? And on the bigger question, I think we need to have a constitutional convention to work out a fair federal future for this country, not some little committee run by William Hague, which frankly I think has been done once again to try and kick the English question into the long grass. I'm really tired, frankly, of the tail wagging the dog. You know, I love Scotland, I'm pleased they're going to stay with us, but it's about time England got a fair deal.
And some lessons for democracy, such a healthy turnout. What can we take from that?
What we can take is that when elections matter, and when you can see differences between one side and the other, people will go and vote. And the reason over the last few years people don't vote in our general elections is we have a Tory party, a Labour party and a Lib Dem party who look the same, sound the same, and who on issues of major substance, it's quite difficult to put a cigarette paper between them.
Lovely, thank you very much.
So fair federal future then that Mr Farage is calling for, Rupert. What do we make of what he's just said?
He looks and sounds like a man who knows he's been head off at the pass. He's just referred to these proposals as pathetic. Why? Because he's obviously had for some time now this proposal to write to all of the MPs in Scotland and ask them not to take part in any debates in Westminster. He's a man who saw an issue, he was going to own that issue. This morning the Prime Minister's got out just ahead of him and said that he wants this committee to go forward, and Farage is going to have to try and rubbish this and say, well, his version's better. But I'm not sure that politely writing to Labour MPs in Scotland and asking them not to take part is quite going to do it.
Absolutely, Rupert. Thank you very much indeed. We'll come to you later on in the programme. Let's